Jim. Nice to meet you.
Yeah. Remind me to begin, I'm terrible with.
Don't even think about it. I'm horrible with names too.
So we had Halloween here, mixed up, and he was a priest, and apparently he went out afterwards, and people actually thought he was a priest, and
Are you from?
tried to confess to him.
Oh, no.
Nice.
King,
That
King
be a
George.
while.
Yeah.
I was like, you should have just left them, you know?
That is
Yeah.
funny.
Waiting on everyone.
Potomac Heritage there,
Carrie, are we,
Oh, okay.
and the dog,
are we good?
which is a part of the.
Yeah. Oh, do you know if we're waiting on anyone else, or we? All right, I will call this meeting to order at 6:01. Oh, we're a minute late. 6:01 p.m. You'll move on to the next agenda item, roll call.
Lee Anderson, Joe Bonds, Kevin Brown, Chris Clark,
Here.
Chris Collins, Lynn Goss,
Here.
Aaron Frank, Deborah Colts, Greg Goldstein, Jamie Jackson, Manila Suit, Deborah Lately,
Here.
Give me half of the time.
Kathy Lehane,
Here.
Cassie Lord, Jerry Lynch,
Sure.
Spin Matter, here, Clay Murray, Jacob Patrick,
Here.
John Fowler,
Sending it.
Matthew G. Cater,
Yeah.
Paul Agnello, and Brian Oswald. Brian
I got two.
Wilson. Oh, thank you.
Awesome. All right, I'll move on to the next agenda item. The November 2nd, 2023 BPAC meeting agenda.
Joe Bruce present.
All right, do you have a second?
I'll second.
All right. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? All right, motion carries. On to item number 4, approval of the September 7th, 2023 meeting minutes, also an action item. Do you have a motion? All right, do you have a second?
A second.
Any discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
All right.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. All right, we'll move on to item number 5, the administrator report. FAMPO administrator, Mr. Ian Hollis.
Yeah, whether you added forum, I assume you did. So I was asked just to comment on two things: the Regional Transportation Authority proposed and the river crossing study. So that's all I'm going to talk about tonight, no other items. So if you could click on the slide. First of all, the river crossing study. We've just begun. You'll see the 3 slides I've got, I put a different kind of bridge in each slide. So, you know, just to stimulate a few ideas for my VDOT friends over there. So, policy committee approved the consultant task order at the last policy committee meeting. So we've begun work on the river crossing alternative study, which is going to inform our final NEPA approval in the future. There you can see another one of the lovely pictures of a potential bridge that you can build over the Rappahannock. So the task order includes a bunch of things. There are going to be 2 public informational workshops. Those are going to be off-site, not here. They'll be in the community, and the consultant will run those, not FAMPO staff, and the public are welcome to give all their input on the potential bridge. The first one is going to inform the public what the general proposal is and all of the alternatives that are being assessed during the study. Public can comment on that. The second one will be towards the end, once all the data analysis has been done and the alternatives have been analyzed, so they'll present the results of that analysis to the public. The study team is going to be monthly with a stakeholder group to provide updates on the study progress and to solicit input. There's going to be a web-based tool on MetroQuest to solicit feedback for 30 days during the process, so that the public can comment not only at the 2 public workshops, but also in a survey, their comments and their inputs on the study. There'll be 6 in-person report backs by the consultants to FAMPO committees. So there'll be another chance for the public and members of our committees to comment. And they've made provision for 2 additional online meetings with FAMPO subcommittees. So it's eight times that FAMPO committees will be able to, including yourselves, give feedback on the proposals, on the data analysis, on the recommendations and so on of the study. So that's what it can look like. Here's another example of a bridge you might want to build, Cassie. So what work is included in the study? What the deficiencies and needs are, the goals of the study, a vision statement, the corridors that are being reviewed, the physical considerations, the topography, developments in the area, connecting with existing highways, environmental impacts in the area, estimated total costs for each alternative corridor, micro simulation. They're going to then model the traffic movement, which is a level further than we've done on previous studies, to actually look at individual intersections. What is the impact on that intersection of having this particular bridge on a particular corridor? So there's a lot of micro simulation that's being done. It's computer simulation. We didn't do this during our internal staff study or in the East-West study, so that's a lot more detailed. Environmental investigation is going to be more detailed too, looking at land use in the area, air quality impacts, noise impacts, surface water impacts, wildlife impacts, cultural and historical resources in the area, community and conservation easements, environmental justice questions. There's a full assessment of the environmental issues that will be done, bike and pedestrian accommodations on the bridge, transit use, how will transit be able to use this or not use this, and then a final report with recommended alternate. Hopefully we have a recommended alternative, but it could be alternatives depending on what they find, right? One or more alternatives will be recommended. So that's really the ambit of the study. Yes, sir.
Can I ask a question about the opportunities for
Public comment.
Bike and pedestrian capability on the bridge?
Yes. So
As you're probably aware,
just flip back.
history of that, we were literally right up until the last minute on the new Route 301 bridge across the Potomac River. You and I were just talking about that. That was included in the design. It was taken out literally at the last minute. Do we have any assurance that we won't get snookered again like we were last time with this bridge?
So
Or what's going to be the deciding point about?
So while I'm here, no one's getting snookered. Okay, everything's going to be done publicly and with all of your input. I've purposefully done a couple of things. The first thing is every image I show has got bicycle pedestrian accommodations on the bridge. Even one of the VDOT staff who's not in the room now, were like, "Oh, are we now including bike ped?" And I said, "We're always going to include bike and ped, and we're not going to let it go away." So it's definitely there. It was recommended in the staff level study that we completed some months back. And when the policy committee adopted the draft purpose and need statement, it specifically refers to multimodal accommodations on the bridge. So the purpose and need of the study already includes that. Now, the consultant is tasked with refining that purpose and need. So the one that the policy committee adopted, officially voted for, is not the final last word on the subject, because you've got to make sure that your study results and your purpose and need and everything else line up. So the bridge has to answer the question, right? If you have the question A and your answer is B and they don't add up, then the federal authorities will go, "But this isn't the right solution for that problem that you described." So the solution and the problem do have to align. So we've allowed a little bit of bendy room, but I've included it the whole way, not as an add-on, but from day one. So, I mean, I'm not going to give up that fight easily. You're going to have to find a reason to convince me not to do that. There's one caveat though. When you apply for federal funding and so on, and I mean, VDOT here may feel free to comment. You cannot have a pathway to nowhere. So on the north and south side of the bridge, you've got to connect that pathway into something. For the folks here from Stafford County, you need to think about that, because I don't want to tell Stafford County where they must put their bike path. I'm including it on the bridge, and the study will continue to include it until the study is finished. But Stafford County will need to tell us where to link that thing to when it's on the other side of the bridge, because we can't tell them where to put it. So it's got to go somewhere, but I'm looking to the county to, in the various stakeholder engagements we have, describe to us, hey, we think it could connect to this neighborhood, or no, we wanted to connect to the Celebrate Virginia neighborhood, or whatever, right? So we will take it across the river in our study, and then during the course of the study, we are asking the county to give some thought to what they would like to do with it on their side of the river. On the city side of the river, we have the Fall Hill Avenue shared use path that comes all the way into the neighborhood already. We have a designed shared use path then going down.
Silver.
Yeah, Carl Silver, that's planned but not built and not funded. So we would need to make sure that the Fredericksburg side of the river connects to one or other point of that system, so that there is a connection and it doesn't just peter out. It has to connect somewhere. But that's something which, basically what I'm saying is we're including it on the bridge, but we're looking to Fredericksburg and even Spotsylvania, because of the Spotsylvania mall that one of these bike paths ends in, and Stafford County to give guidance as to what they would like to do with it when it gets off the bridge.
And just to clarify as well, in terms of bicycle and pedestrian improvements in Stafford, I think all of the proposals as such for this study connect somewhere along Celebrate Virginia Parkway. Celebrate Virginia Parkway has a shared use path running its entire length, so we will be connecting to existing bicycle and pedestrian.
So there would be one example of where we could connect it in, but the point is, the study is not going to tell the 2 jurisdictions or the 3 jurisdictions, this is what you must do. The study is going to say, we'll put it on the bridge, and then you tell us where to draw the lines after it gets into your jurisdiction, and we'll gladly accommodate lining those up. You look like you want to hit me.
No, not hit. It's just a question though.
Sure.
The logical termini,
Yes.
can that be the planned logical termini as it's adopted in a comprehensive plan and not a literal connection? Because the problem that we've run into in the past is, in order to make some of these, the bridge connect to some final destination, the project then becomes too large to do all of it. That was the issue with the I-95 tunnel, where we have, okay, we do an I-95 tunnel, and then I have the west side of I-95, where I have right-of-way that needs to be acquired, and I need a trail constructed out to Harrison Road, and good luck finding a funding pool for that tunnel and all of that. So I mean, these projects tend to be incremental. There's a larger plan, but I can't do it all at once. So that's the problem that I have.
So Milan's sitting right here, far be it from me to answer the question for them. Perhaps they'd like to give some comment on your question.
They have kind of updated that logical termini to help with that.
That's good, because that was a problem.
Yeah, and actually Kathy Coffey is like one of the people who helped with updating.
Okay, good.
So now I know with the logical termini, you can put in a barrier if like you don't have it to go somewhere. Now I'm saying going over a bridge and then hitting a barrier is probably not the best thing.
Right.
But what we might be able to do is take it to the next logical intersection
Yeah.
and then show a map of where the planned future extension is.
Yeah, well, and taking it to an intersection, technically, then you are at least getting it to.
Yes.
And we have
So, I mean, you can take it
okay.
across the bridge and up to, say, Sanford Road, or up to Celebrate Virginia, where it might, I'm just told there is a bike path, or up to, so we'll find some logical way to tie it in,
Yeah.
but maybe not build it all the way to New York. You know, we might just build it the first section and indicate on a map where future sections are going to be.
That's good to know. It sounds more favorable than what we were dealing with before, where I'm just like, I don't know how to do this. Everything's incremental. And actually, to go just really quickly to piggyback on your point about 301, you know, the Mud Tavern Road Bridge over I-95, which was reconstructed not that long ago, that had a shared use path on the south side as well that dropped out of the project last minute. And so now with the Mud Tavern Road widening, we have a shared use path going to a bridge that never had, now doesn't have a receiving shared use path. And so when we've asked for it between that bridge in Caroline County for frontage improvements for a shared use path, the pushback that we're getting now from the development community is, well, you don't have a shared use path on the bridge. This goes to nowhere. The only thing that ended up on that bridge was a sidewalk on the north side. So what ended up happening is you have a shared use path on the south, a crosswalk to the north, now a sidewalk on the north, no shared use path, and then it crosses back via crosswalk to what we're still trying to pursue as a shared use path. But the opportunity sailed when that shared use path dropped off that bridge. And that again was late in the process, and it was a funding thing. But these things have come up before, and it always seems to be the bike ped falls out, but anyway.
Well, that's the reason that I wanted to make sure that in this meeting while we're talking about it, and you have it on your list, great, but I think those of us who are interested in bike, pedestrian and non-motorized moving stuff and people around need to talk about it every minute of every day.
I think you
And that's
do, and I think you're quite
50 to
correct, but
100-year tragedy, because when's the next opportunity we're gonna be able to build one of these bridges over I-95 or at Mud Tavern or in Stafford or in King George or in.
The only last point I would say is in the most recent examples, Chatham Bridge,
Yeah.
the Route 17 bridge being reconstructed right now,
Mhm.
shared use paths are starting to appear now. So I think there has been a shift. But those not that long ago bridges it's opportunity lost, so.
I mean, for me, my answer, if you want a formal answer, is we put it in the purpose and need. And if it remains in the purpose and need, you can't later chop it off because then you're not fulfilling the purpose and need. So just keep watching that nobody rips it out of the purpose and need, because then we're going to have to show some results on the end. It doesn't specifically say bike path, it says you have to have multimodal accommodations. So we're not going to build a separate bus lane.
Okay, I have one more. Your illustration there looks like the path was just tacked on there.
Well,
Could you come up with an illustration that shows like it's designed in from day one and not just?
well, then others, flip to the next one. So this one has it over there designed in
Yes.
fancy
Much better,
architectural
much better.
features, and then it links inside to
See my point? Yeah, I mean, if it's.
It's going to be on one side or the other side. That's not going to change.
Right. If it shows it as just being tacked on, it can just as easily be tacked off.
Well, to be really honest, what I would like is to also have a viewing deck halfway on the bridge, kind of like you have on the Chatham,
Yeah,
that kind of little inlet, right?
that's
I
wonderful.
don't think it's that expensive to just have a little.
You're already doing
When you're
it. You're
spending
there.
$280 million, I can't see how
Yeah.
we're going to spend a whole lot on a little bit of an overhang, but you know, I can't claim to know.
Thank you, Ian, for entertaining my digression.
That is placemaking and tourism friendly type thing, so that's good.
That too.
Well, it
Very
is, and
true.
one of the mandates of MPOs is you have to look at the tourism impacts of transportation improvements in your area. It's in federal regulations, so.
Yeah.
Okay. Whatever we're calling it, Transportation Authority. Points of discussion. You've heard about this already. I've cobbled together this presentation from a couple of presentations, so the style is a bit wonky, but we need to think about, if we're going to do this Transportation Authority, we have to give it a name. We have to think about the membership of the board. We have to think about how we're going to weight voting or not weight voting, taxes and fees, because you have to fund the authority somehow. Otherwise, you just have a shelf company, which does nothing. Distributing the funds, how we're going to use them, a prioritization of projects, and possibly an initial set of projects, because everybody's panicking that all their money is going to go to somebody else's project. So we need to think through that. Next one. So points to consider. This is a shorter version of the full presentation because your time is quite packed tonight. These are the possible taxes we looked at to fund a transportation authority. The first three were the proposals put in Senate Bill was it 3418? Anyway, the McPike bill that was presented to the Senate last year, which consists of a grantor's tax, a transient occupancy tax, and a state recordation tax. Then I put two options in the bill for a retail tax, and then for this should really be called a motor vehicle tax, because it's gas, diesel, and a highway use fee for alternative fuels vehicles. This is really one tax, but some people don't like me to say that because they want to argue that a diesel tax is a tax from a gasoline tax. It's a vehicle tax. So whatever your vehicle is, you pay one of those. You don't pay all three, right? You pay one of them. But anyway, those are potential taxes we could use to fund this thing. The more work okay, never mind. Next slide. The way the highway use fee would operate is there is an existing highway use fee that's charged by the state right now to match the current gas tax, and we could put a 5% tax on top of that, which would give you $7 a year per vehicle. It's not a lot, but if we had a gas tax, you would be probably paying $8 or $9 a vehicle on your gas tax. So it's in that kind of range. Next one. In practice, sorry, just go back to next one back. In practice, we've done a lot more digging on this, and I haven't got all the slides for you, but my suggestion to the TAC on Monday is going to be that we drop this, because we would raise the gas tax higher than the rates in our neighbors' jurisdictions if we do that, and we think that's a bad mistake. We first thought there would be a gap, but there isn't a gap, because the state took what is called in the legislation the commuter rail gas tax, and it's been extended subsequently to every jurisdiction in Virginia, even those who don't have any commuter rail. So by doing that, they're taxing everybody with a commuter rail tax. It's a gas tax, and they're paying the balance that doesn't go to VRE and so on. They're paying that into the small-scale pot. So there's no differential that we could just add a little tax on to the current gas tax. It would put our gas tax too high, we think. Some people think that if we put a wholesale gas tax on, it might persuade the distributors to absorb that wholesale tax, but they might not, and then you end up with it. So we're going to suggest removing this altogether. No gas tax, no highway use fee, none of that. Leave that to fund VRE, right? And we don't touch it. So that leaves us with those four. We're still busy back and forthing. The policy committee asked us to use additional information on what taxes currently exist in the 5 jurisdictions of the GWRC region. We produced that data. So we're showing the TAC on Monday, and then we're going to show it to the policy committee at the end of the month. Next one. So what do you do with the money when you get it? So Northern Virginia has a regional transportation authority. They keep 70% of the money that comes in to spend on regional transportation projects. 30% they give back to the jurisdictions that are within the transportation authority area. They announced at the Governor's Transportation Conference 2 weeks ago that they've reached a milestone in terms of their income. They have now, in the years since they've been operating, given $1 billion back to their jurisdictions, right? $1 billion. So the 30% now equals $1 billion. You can imagine what the 70% is that they brought in through their transportation authority to build all those flyovers and bus funding and all that well in Northern Virginia. Central Virginia Transportation Authority, they give 50% back to their jurisdictions. It's a higher number. 35% they retain in the Transportation Authority for regional projects, and 15% they give to transit directly. It's been suggested that it's dangerous to create the split beforehand. before you've even discussed it, you just give 15% to transit. There'll be some years when transit needs more than 15%. There'll be other years when they could do perhaps with less. But if you fixed number, you may lock yourself into something. The alternative is, we know in some jurisdictions, if you don't give a regular amount to transit, they might give nothing. So there's the other counter argument that we have to think about with transit. HRTAC is the Hampton Roads Transportation Authority. They give $0 back to their jurisdictions. 100% of it goes into regional projects. And if you look on their website, you can see how many billions of dollars they're spending on tunnels under the bay and all sorts of stuff. Next one. Prioritization of projects. So built into the legislation, we've suggested that there's a system of prioritization that you have to not just say, hey, I want this road, give me the money. So each of the 5 jurisdictions, if they participate, they'll submit the projects that they want, and we'd have a scoring matrix to score them and say, yes, they add value, and this is how they add value. They reduce congestion, or it's a great bike path that provides access to something, or whatever the case is. You'd score them and consider their benefits relative to costs, and the project has to be in a plan. It's got to be in a state plan or a local transportation, long-range transportation plan, or a county's transportation plan or comprehensive plan. You can't just make up projects anytime you want to. They've got to be planned for in the future. Next slide. We've suggested that you need a agreement for the first few projects. So lots of jurisdictions might like the idea of having a transportation authority, but they're worried that all the money is going to go to those other people, right, in that other place. And so each of these measures we're proposing in the bill deals with that. So first of all, the voting is weighted so that you have, you need to have the representatives of 80% of the population in favor of the project, otherwise you don't get the money. But also, one jurisdiction on their own can't boycott your project in a different jurisdiction. We've then got a scoring matrix that you have to comply with. And then we've got this. We're suggesting that for the first few projects, for the first couple of years, we have a memorandum of agreement between the jurisdictions to say, this is one bridge we're going to build, this is one lane on the highway we're going to build, this is, so we have an agreement, each jurisdiction gets a chance to ask for something, and we have an agreement that we will build this first few projects with the first lot of money, so that beforehand there's some level of calm that we know where the money's going, right? There's a scoring mechanism, there's a weighted, you need a certain number of votes to get anything approved, and we agree the first few projects.
Your first few projects, will that still be inclusive of the local split?
It's the first few projects that
Because the local split will be in the legislation.
Yeah, the first few projects will be what the regional money will be spent on.
Yeah.
The jurisdictions can decide what they want to do with their money. They want to put it on one of those, they can do, but if they decide they want it for Matthew's Christmas bonus, they can spend it on, as long as Matthew's transportation oriented, I suppose they might be able to do that next.
Electric bike.
There you go. So this is not meant to be my proposal. This is just meant to be an example of what's meant. And this is an out-of-date slide because the transit project's not on here. But anyway, we'll give you the updated ones. So, you know, each jurisdiction would nominate a project that they want to spend the first money on. And then there'd be some negotiation as to whether those projects are okay and how much money do we give to the projects. You'll notice that those amounts are not going to fully fund those projects. But there's logic here. The idea is that we do what Hampton Roads does and what North Virginia does. You use the money you get in on the Transportation Authority to leverage smart scale federal grants, other state grants, by saying, hey, we'll put up 20% of the money. Here's a check. We've already got the money. We're asking you to give us 80% of the money. So the idea is that we use the money we raise locally to leverage federal and state money elsewhere and other grants. You then, let's say we get 1, 3, and 5 funded. from state grants, federal grants, smart scale, whatever else. You then may have to pay the balance of funding for the number 2 and 4 that you didn't get a federal grant or a state grant or a smart scale application. So the idea is to use it to leverage and then backfill where we can't get the balance. So the idea is to try and maximize the results from the money that we raise by adding to it from other sources. I think that's the last slide. So there's lots of other stuff to this, but you know, I was asked to keep it shorter, so I'm stopping there.
Yeah, one of the pushbacks that we in the non-motorized community, if you time, is that we don't pay for anything. We don't pay fees, we don't pay taxes, we don't pay anything. Those toward kind of facilities that we want, multi-use trails, off-road trails, anything. Is there an answer to that? Should we be looking for a way that we can be taxed or pay a fee or somehow in the financing picture?
So just go back to financial.
Is that a topic that we should just be aware of? And
Further up, back, down. Yeah, stop here. So, transit occupancy tax is designed to tax people who temporarily come through our area.
yeah, I get that.
This and this is paid by people who've bought or sold or rented property in the local area, which is all of you. Retail tax will affect everybody. So you are paying into this, no matter who you are. So I'm suggesting that you should expect to get a little something out for bike paths, sidewalks, the kind of projects you're interested in, because you're already paying in. So to ask you to pay in another tax, ring-fenced, I think would be unnecessary. The trick is you've got to get the folks who decide where to spend the money to agree to spend some of it on bike and ped accommodations or whatever the case is, because you are already contributing by paying a sales tax, by paying whatever it is, you are contributing. And so I think it's a question of making sure you get the outcomes you want because you're already putting the money in.
Okay, well, that's an argument, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wonder how.
Well,
What's that?
well, you've either got to write it in the legislation or you've got to get the scoring metric that is drawn up by the new authority when it's created to include bike and ped and transit, right? And it should. But you build that in so that there must be accommodations. And then the third way is, which Cassie was smiling at me for just now, is that you approve projects that are roadway plus, right? So you're widening a road, okay, well, you better put a bike path down the side or a sidewalk down the side or other things. It's not just you build a road. You must more of a complete streets model. But, you know, you do that with the project. Like everything in the world, there's no final guarantee it's always going to work because new people get elected and they do different things, right? So there's no way we can guarantee what they will do, but at least we're trying. And if you get them to agree those projects with sidewalks or bike ped stuff in the first round, at least you've started down the right path.
All right, any further questions on that? Before we move on to our public comment and then discussion and action items. All right, thank you, Ian. All right, moving on to public comment. Comments and questions from members of the public are welcome at this time. Do we have anybody in the room or online? I think we have any. All right, seems like we did receive.
Sorry. We received a phone call from Matt Steinbaum, a college student from the University of Mary Washington, and he just called to relay comments and concerns about trail improvements to the VCR Trail and the Smith Run Trail, and has hopes that the small section of the trail off River Road will be developed and added to existing trail network. His concerns about VCR Trail was that after a big rain, it gets pretty muddy down near Lafayette. And the Smith Run Trail was just for connectivity to Callan Boulevard and Ethan.
All right, thank you. All right, we'll close the public comment period and move on to item number 7, our discussion and action items. So the first item is a BPAC officers update. So some of you may or may not know, as what's on the screen, Adam Lynch, our prior chair, has taken a new job. Thus, he is no longer with the Friends of the Rappahannock, and he has resigned his position on BPAC. Yeah, Carrie, is there anything else you want to add onto that?
Just that he wanted to extend his regrets that it was so quick, but he saw an opportunity for his family and like anybody would do. So we just, I drew up a certificate that I'm sending to him just to recognize all of the good work that he's done here. And to let you all know that we, as is our procedure, Matthew Lane is now our chair, and we need a new vice chair. So we are going to be taking elections and perhaps an election this evening, vice chair. And Chair Lane is going to start that.
So do we have nominations?
And let me real quick review what that is. So a vice chair is basically practice for chair. So you spend the next year sort of watching what the chair does, learning position, and then after the full year is over, you take over being chair.
It's kind of like a rotational cycle. So then the next vice chair would then a year after take over being chair.
Not too daunting. You get to use the gavel. Right there.
But there's another gavel.
And same thing.
That one's little.
I have a question. Since
We'll give you the little gavel.
Matthew is taking over chair, and Matthew, we appreciate it. Will his taking over just extend to the end of Adam's term, which ends in December?
Very good
or
question.
something?
So Matthew's term, since we have changed to align with the rest of the FAMPO committees, Matthew's term would have begun in July.
July, that's right.
So Matthew is now serving in this sort of interim period, and then he actually starts in July. So this term is going to be a little longer than.
Okay, so lucky Matthew gets to be chair
For
here in 8 months or something.
Yeah.
Okay. He's an Iron Man. Then.
So the vice chair would be doing the same thing.
Okay, got it.
They get a little extra practice time.
And I can give you the little gavel. Yeah.
You guys know you want the gavel. It's fun to play with. But, don't leave us high and dry. 'Cause it's every other month. And the vice chair doesn't really have to do anything at all. But the chair is doing. Occasionally, if the chair can't make it to a meeting, the vice chair chair the meeting with lots of help from me. So.
It's obviously very tempting to
And it,
nominate somebody who isn't here.
well, that is not an unprecedented act.
Yes, I've seen.
There's really only like 5 sentences you have to say. All those in favor,
Right.
any opposed.
I can even make you a
Gosh.
cheat sheet. And if nobody volunteers, someone will be volunteering.
And embarrassingly enough, my first time running TAC, I did not say the words correctly, and no one corrected me till after, so do it. Okay.
Yeah, Matthew is currently chairing the BPAC and the TAC.
Stafford is chairing all committees and Jersey. Comment.
So somebody can.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
Can I just offer up an idea? Since, this is all new and kind of sprung on us and so forth, would it be useful to make sure everybody in the list of members and so forth is aware that we need.
Certainly.
It's oftentimes somebody to step up
Yeah, we can do that. I'll note.
and handle it in January.
Yeah, surely. I'll note we will I wouldn't say need, but we'll definitely want to make a decision in January. I will be absent at the likely March meeting, depending on the time and day. But otherwise, good to go.
Okay, so you'll want to have a motion for that if you plan.
Oh, to wait.
Yeah, you'll want to have a motion to wait to have the election.
Well, I'll give another thought. Does anyone want to nominate? All right, I will. Can I nominate? Okay, I'll nominate Chris for vice chair.
I second it.
All right. I guess that's a motion. Any discussion? Wait a second.
Sorry.
All right, any discussion? All right, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Congratulations on our new vice chair.
I'm also chair.
Yeah.
Happy to help.
Back, right?
Times have you been chair, Jacob? It's been more than
Just one time, the original, I was the original chair. But I've been with BPACs, well, we have, since before we were even doing the 2-month thing. We've been around here forever, so.
An ad hoc committee.
All right, awesome. Well, that makes that easy. So that's item B out of the way. So item C, do I have a motion to recognize the dedicated service of our previous chair, Mr. Adam Lynch? All right, do I have a second?
Just give him a spreadsheet.
Chair is very different.
Love to have a smart.
Sorry, do I have a motion?
Yes.
All right, do I have a second?
Yeah.
All right, any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. We're moving on to item D, Smart Scale Round 6 update. Carrie.
All right, so. Smart Scale Round 6 process review update. As you may know, Smart Scale is undergoing a rather significant process review and some big changes right now. Next slide. So the Commonwealth Education Board is doing this review. They've been doing it all year. Round 5, Smart Scale, this past round, was a historic win for Bike Ped, and we were all pretty excited about it. This is a list of the projects that won big. The ones that are in red stars, these were funded by a funding stream called HPP, High Priority State Projects. So the VCR Regional Trail, the US 1 Bike Ped Shared Use Path, the Lay Hill Roadway and Pedestrian Improvements, and the Dixon Street Multimodal and Roadway Improvements were all HPP funded. And this says it over here. Those were all funded by HPP stream. Next slide. For round 6, however, the State Transportation Secretary has directed OAP, the office. Thank you. I had it. You what? Office investment. Yes. To conduct a full review of the Smart Scale process. I've said it so many times until I had to say it to full people. And It's okay. So, they've been conducting a full review of the Smart Scale process. They're doing a statistical analysis of the past round to identify potential biases and their possible causes. They're doing a survey. They did a survey of all the Smart Scale users, which is folks like us and locality planners and folks across the state. They want to see how the performance is going on, what perceptions are of the process and the administration of the program. They're conducting a procedural review to identify possible improvements to the application process, the communications, and they're doing some code and policy changes. So the CTB staff is recommending several procedural, policy, and code changes. After months of review, the staff have made several game-changing recommendations. So those most affecting Bike Ped projects as regional and/or locality submissions are, they're strictly defining high priority project fund eligible projects. So this means that standalone Bike Ped projects like the VCR trail are no longer eligible for that type of funding. They're also eliminating the funding step 2. This was so they have 3 steps for funding. And funding step 2 was a step that allowed smaller projects submitted by MPOs and PDCs to be funded by HPP funding rather than district grant funding, which is how they would have been funded had they been submitted by locality. The last thing that they're doing that affects what the folks care about here, is they're modifying the land use factor. Many of the bike ped projects, such as the VCR trail, scored high enough for funding on this measure alone. And the CTB assessment found that the metric was highly biased towards small urban projects because it mattered more where the project was located than what type of project it was. Next slide. So this is the new definition of projects eligible for HPP funds. This is not completely set in stone. They're not going to finalize this until the next CTB meeting in December, but this is pretty much where it's going to be at. So the project has to be on a corridor of statewide significance or a regional network. That is the location. And only projects that include these feature types. So it has to be a new capacity highway, like a new roadway, a new lane on the highway, a managed lane, a new or improved interchange, new or improved passenger rail stations or service, freight rail, high capacity fixed guideway transit, transit transfer stations, or a new bridge. Now, if this had been in place for round 5, none of the starred projects I showed you previously would have been funded. Sure. Next slide. So, eliminating funding step 2, as I mentioned earlier, SmartScale intends localities to submit small projects funded by the district grant program. That's one of the 2. So you've got the district grant program and the high priority projects program. One is meant for localities and small projects. One is meant for regional bodies like FAMPO, and is supposed to be state priority. Those are supposed to be large projects. So SmartScale is trying to get it back to what it is meant for. Step 1 funded locality projects with DGP funding. Step 2 allowed small projects that would have fit DGP criteria, but were submitted by MPOs and PDCs to be funded by HPP funds before the rest of the projects in step 3. Step 3 is allocating the high priority state funding to large projects across the state. That's how it was working before. But they're getting rid of funding step 2. And that means now MPOs and PDCs can no longer submit small projects like bike and pedestrian projects by themselves. Back a little bit. So any bicycle and pedestrian feature going forward that we're going to be submitting will need to be part of a large regional project.
If I may add, just for the committee as well, that doesn't mean that localities won't be submitting bicycle pedestrian projects on our own. We may very well still submit them
Right.
as a locality, small bicycle and pedestrian project.
Right, because you're on a different funding stream.
Exactly.
You're on DGP, which
It-
is still,
Because of some of the changes Carrie discussed, not this one specifically, but the changes to the land use factor won't score as well.
that's right.
They will score significantly worse,
Right.
but they're still eligible and may still submit them under the district grant program by locality.
Next slide. Yeah, so what you were just talking about, the land use factor modification. So the reviewers found an outsized influence from the land use factor compared to the other 5 scoring factors, which are safety, congestion, accessibility, economic development, and environment. In some cases, they found that the land use factor was as high as 74% of the score for some of the projects. So to mitigate this, they're redistributing the land use points to other factor areas. This factor has been very beneficial to our bicycle and pedestrian submissions, and the modification is going to result in substantially lower scores to those types of projects all around. Next slide. So the last couple rounds of SmartScale have been very good for bicycle and pedestrian planning, but things are changing and we are going to need to change too. The regional and local projects, roadway and transit projects, will need bicycle and pedestrian features thoughtfully integrated into them because the land use factor, as Matthew said, will make standalone bike ped projects weaker. FAMPO and GWRC must adhere to submitting large regional projects on the HPP list only and must carefully plan the integration of bike ped features into them. And this goes to what Ian was talking about establishing an RTA. And the reason that that is so important now is because the source of local match funding is much more important than ever, because our regional projects will be very large and much more expensive, and they will need to be competing with projects around the state, places like Hampton Roads and Northern Virginia, that have these huge pots of local match funding. So we can't compete with them well if we don't have any money to put down on our projects. These are big changes, and we have to rise to meet them. Next slide. So the next steps, December, regional and local project concepts will be due to VDOT to begin development, and we are all working on that right now. And in December, we'll hear the final rule on all these recommendations I was just telling you about. And then December to March, we're going to be working on our project applications. And towards the end of March, our pre-applications will be due. And that's where we're at. Next slide. That's it. Any questions? Yes, Jim?
Question, in one of your slides there, it talks about integrating bike and ped capabilities into a highway project. Do we know how to do that?
Yes.
Do we? Okay.
Yeah, we do. I mean, it's like what we were talking about before. When we widen a road, we put a shared use path with it wherever we can. Like we
I get that, but
add things in as well as we can.
yes, I get that. But the key thing was where it said thoughtfully including in there. And that means it has to be some purpose, not just want to include a sidewalk or a path in every road we propose.
Right. Right.
Is that
I
going to
say
fly?
thoughtfully, I mean, we have to have our eye on the larger network.
Well, that's what I was asking. Do we know how?
Oh, we are long range planners and we are seeing the big picture. And so we have the network.
So we need to show how it's integrated into the network.
Right.
Connectivity.
Right.
And of course, those of us in that community are all about connectivity. So. Okay, good.
Chairman, may I make one comment? It seems like a lot of bad news, right? Some of this is bad news, you know. There's also some good news. Everything is bad. And I must give some credit to Paul Anello for this. We started working on a proposal to try to get a mid-tier of jurisdictions established, because what happens is that in the previous round of small scale, large jurisdictions and large MPOs got 10 slots to submit a project for scoring and for funding. Everybody else got 4 slots. So Paul first said, that's not right. There should be some space for a mid-range in between these two extremes. You either get 10 slots or you get 4 slots. I mean, there's no scale there. And so we took him up on the idea and we pushed for it and we submitted a proposal and nobody paid any attention to our proposal. And then they came out with a proposal to cut, big jurisdictions would get 5 instead of 10 slots in future, and everybody else would get 2 slots instead of 4 in future. And so we did a little bit of stuff behind the scenes and we talked to some people and we had some lunches and we cooked up another response and we wrote back and said, a couple of us just behind the scenes, our chairman tonight will probably throw a rock at me if he knows what I really got up to, but we did some things and we submitted a proposal. We said, well, fine, if you're going to do that, reduce everybody's slots. We still want a middle tier. Put a middle tier in for 4 slots and make it 2, 4, 6. Instead of 2 and 5, make it 2, 4, 6. So we were told by the powers that be to keep quiet and not say anything. Our from nowhere popped this proposal at the last CTB meeting, which said the final recommendation is going to be 3, 4, 6. So, and then they listed the jurisdictions and the MPOs that would get the higher number of slots, the 4 slots. And guess which is the only MPO in the state of Virginia that will get the 4? Us.
You know that GWRC then will only get.
Well, we're doing more lunches and
Well,
things.
So we heard this at the last, we have like occasionally with OIB for like all the state planners and everything. And so they said that basically when an MPO and PDC are covering the same area, they subtract out the population that's a part of the MPO. So that you guys are actually only Caroline County and King George County for the population.
Except that is a complete lie.
Well, that was from the Smart Scale manager.
Well, he's lying. She is lying. And let me tell you how I know that for a fact. Last round, tell them to call me. Last round, they gave GWRC and FAMPO both.
Yeah, but
There was no-
population range, and there wasn't a tier.
There was no lower tier.
We'll think about that and we'll come up with another proposal. They also left off Fred Transit. So why did they do that? Is that also for some little calculation behind the scenes? So it's not completely perfect. However, we're very grateful for the good news, right? Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Every other MPO in the state of Virginia has had their number of slots cut, except us. Secondly,
Stafford and Spot.
wait, I'm getting there. In addition to that, we've also managed to get Stafford and Spotsylvania classified in a higher category, so they also get an additional slot. Fredericksburg doesn't because it doesn't meet the population threshold. And we'll talk about Fred Transit because we think they just made a mistake. But anyway, the point is, we've managed to get at least three, maybe 4 extra slots for our region that we didn't have 2 weeks ago. So that's good news, right? If we try and work and whatever, every now and again we get something we didn't know. So it's not completely, there's some bad news for Bike and Ped here. We're going to get less Bike and Ped projects funded. That's just a fact. But it's not complete bad news. We managed to claw back some extra positions.
So
Maybe
Kenny,
they're
what's
right.
the future for
We'll
those
work
that we had on the board? What is the future for those 5-star departments?
They were already funded.
So it's almost like they're grandfathered in or something.
They were from a previous round. They're already
So,
funded.
like
and
that
They're
is-
not going to be touched. They're not. gonna be
Okay,
touched.
I didn't know if there was like takebacks.
No.
No takesies, backsies.
No takebacks. Okay, I'm just,
Nope, it's
checking
every round
how
of
this
the
is
smart
working.
scale, they try to update, change things, but
Yeah.
that does not affect the previous rounds of
so
smart
so
scale.
far though, they're still clear, the 5 stars.
They're on, they're,
Oh, yeah, no, they're in there.
they're in the plan. They're gonna use BC code. They're
That's
progressing.
exciting.
They're okay.
All right, Jacob?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, just one quick question, Carrie. I noticed in the presentation, you talked about corridors of statewide significance, and I know what those are. Those are clearly labeled. The comp plan code, we have to actually identify those within the comp plan. But the regional network, what is that specifically? Like, what is that based on? Is there a map that show what actually is a regional network?
It's everything in an MP.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Oh,
Isn't that-
but,
okay.
so they calculate congestion metrics for regional networks. Great, right? The data they use to calculate congestion metrics for regional networks only exists on Route 1, Route 17, Route 3.
Yeah.
So that
Have
limits.
No.
Yeah.
That's not even very far.
See, that's.
Yeah, we're working a separate battle on that one as well.
Beach Road, no River Road,
No,
no
Garrisonville.
Garrisonville Road.
I've already mentioned that and pointed it out
Yep.
and basically got shut down by that.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. A lot of pieces that are still very much moving parts before our next round of smart scale.
I mean, it did sound like they were going to try and add Garrisonville Road for this next round for V-Trans.
We can talk. Interesting.
You know, we're not invited to V-Trans meeting.
The reason that it's like that is that they use a particular data source for their that data source. Index doesn't cover every
Yeah.
road.
Yep.
And so because they don't cover every road in America, there's some vacuous islands. Yeah. And we need to convince them to use an additional data source. Yeah.
And to be fair to their point,
Perhaps you would think that we could have it.
to be fair to their point, when they calculated it, XD segments, which are a different type of index segment, did not exist. Only TMC segments, which are traffic message codes or traffic message channels, or they calculated on. The other segments did not exist in terms of data. So technically the data source they used just didn't have the data. They have new data now that does contain further information that they can use if they choose to use it.
I guess I would,
They are going to be. Said.
Makes sense.
I would just say in the short term, we can certainly focus on those roadways because there's certainly needs there on those corridors. And some of them are part of regional trail networks, like our East Coast Greenway that we're slowly working out. In the long run, though, that permanently leaves literal gaps in those networks because now I have road corridors that I can't touch.
And that
Tough.
is where the RTA can come in to
Yeah.
a very big part in terms of the
Yeah.
locality and how we prioritize projects in the RTA. If
And you
it
have to
worked,
remember-
and it would play a big part. Yes.
Oh, that's above my pay grade. That's why I know what's going on.
And then, I know you might cover this on the Monday one. And if you don't, you might want to put it in there,
Okay.
that they also are going to be tying, they're proposing to tie the consensus funding decisions to performance.
Oh, yeah.
Projects.
Dun, dun, dun.
So what they did was FYI, so this will not, I did check with OEP, this will not affect your scores in any way, shape, or form. It will basically be at the end part with the CTB. They did, for the October meeting, pass the performance policy for locally administered projects. And they can now, and I mean, they were able to do this before, but now they actually have a policy to kind of stand behind. The CTB can choose not to move forward with a project that was scored well if the locality is not doing well with locally administered projects.
And that will be in place for the next round of Smart Scale, correct?
Yes.
Yep.
So,
And
now it was listed as there's a lot of back and forth with their CTB member about this. It was listed as a final recommendation in October. But what they did was they are using what was passed in October for the LAP to then use that for Smart Scale for the next round.
And do you, I think assuming the answer is no, but do you have any information on when that'll be dated? When they look at Smart Scale scores, will it be, what was your locality performing a year ago when you applied for this project, or is it, how's your locality performing now?
I think it will be how you're performing now.
Perfect.
So, but I know like that policy is like a yearly update.
Yeah. And
So,
that's where issues make.
but it's also going to be, I think we have a pretty good relationship with the CT member that I think VDOT has a pretty good relationship with the CTV member that she would know where the localities are actually like at and everything. No, no, please do not do that. For the record, please do not do that. No, it's just more of like, she will be aware where the localities are with the projects and everything. So that's not just based on that metric and that they're gonna be putting in place.
It basically gives them the right to take away a project.
Yes, which they already had, but now they have a policy to stand behind.
So for example, the projects that were mentioned for round 5, was it?
Yeah.
Are they in jeopardy? Yeah.
No, this would be
Just going forward.
This will be round 6.
Okay.
the project might really score well in round 6, but the CTV would say it scored well, but based on your past performance, we don't think you're a good gamble, so we're not going to fund it.
The new the, the new state trails office.
Mhm.
I, we had a meeting last night. In fact, there's a corresponding meeting tonight that talks about what they're gonna do and how they're gonna do it, and advanced planning and all. One of the questions I raised is, do multimodal, multi-use have to be along a highway, or can they go somewhere else? And that, yes, they absolutely can go somewhere else. They don't have to be along a highway, which is counter to here that's standalone bike ped projects cannot be that's counter to what the state trails office is telling us.
Last night we had a statewide trails meeting for the northern, basically district of Virginia, so Nova, Fredericksburg, and Culpeper. And so what he had asked was, could multi-trails be like outside of like the highway, basically not running right along with the highway? And they said yes, because it's technically a lot of trails, especially once you get into other areas of Virginia. are
Like
not
rail
right along.
trails, what you're saying.
And
But-
they particularly, the moderator first particularly talked about rails two trails, because rails two trails
Yeah.
are transportation corridors, but they aren't alongside a highway.
Right, but that means basically with the changes they're proposing, smart scale, you would not be able to build those trails with smart scale money.
Different funding source.
With,
But there are other funding sources and everything that deal with trails.
you would not be able to build those trails with HPP, but you would be with DGP.
Yeah, if it's scored well enough. If it's scored well enough.
Less pots for us.
By the way, I don't know if you know, they put that up. I didn't realize they put that up.
Oh, awesome, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are lots of other funding sources, but Smart Scale wouldn't be eligible for Smart.
It would be eligible.
Okay,
It would be
DGP, it would be eligible
Yes.
for DGP.
if it's scored wrong.
It wouldn't necessarily scroll, but it wouldn't be eligible for HPP. Right.
There'll still be some bicycle and pedestrian projects that will get funded in next round of smart schools, but significant, probably like 70% less, maybe, based on the preliminary analysis they did.
Sorry, I'm an MPO person and I just.
Just want to remember, I had my comment about the balance, I think somebody lied earlier.
We'll strike.
But yeah, when the manager, the smart scale manager, no, Brooke Jackson, when she explained it and everything, we were all kind of surprised by that. But that's why I figured I'd bring it up, because we did not realize that, so.
Yeah,
So if we didn't realize it, there was a chance that you guys.
No,
didn't realize that.
I realized it, but I didn't realize the particular.
The rule 27.395B that they amended last week.
I think at this point it's in the upper hundreds, but
I knew they were talking about tying it to past performance, so I didn't know what the mechanism was gonna be.
Oh, yeah, for that, yeah, that was,
Oh, that bit, yes. I didn't know that part.
I wanted to see that.
I thought they were, yeah, I thought they were gonna get the same as, Yes.
Carrie, can I say just for the record that I don't think that, smart scale should have rules that are counter to what state trails are.
you and about 25 other people at the town hall, including myself in my head.
You were on the town hall
No, just
last night.
folks at the town hall talked about the HPP rules being counter to what nationally we're trying to get, like, aren't trying to promote.
basically that the HPP rules that they're proposing are going against what basically every transportation planner is actually trying to do, which is you're not trying to widen roadways, you're trying to get all uses, because that's the only real way of reducing traffic.
Capacity building should be.
And now also capacity building does not mean, that like where you have multiple intersections that you're working on and everything that would technically help Yeah. Increase capacity, that is not what they're talking about either when they're saying increasing capacity. They're actually talking about adding general purpose through lanes.
Like my question to Ms. Jackson the other day, that email, like, I feel like that question has been fielded a lot of times about the corridor improvements. I don't know why that's not an HPP list item.
Oh, we found out, so, because we're dealing, a lot of this came up with the HPP because I work with the Middle Peninsula PDC a lot too. And the PDC was going to be doing applications for the town of Tappahannock based on the STAR study we did. So I asked OIP if any of those projects would pass with HPP the way that they're trying to redefine it, and they said no. So now the county has to apply for the town of Tappahannock. The PDC can't do any applications that they were thinking about for the town of Tappahannock. And then the only other area that would even probably count would be like Foster County. And they're not proposing to widen any portions of Route 17. So they most likely, if this gets passed, they will not be applying for any smart scale applications.
And the general question for the C2B was HPP, high priority projects. It is meant for regionally significant projects. Are bicycle and pedestrian projects considered regionally significant? Right.
Apparently not.
Well, just like one of the CTV members said, the boulder in the middle of 17, I think it's everyone's problem. But they're not considering it being a problem.
It's 301. It's not on it either, is it? It's
Well,
not
no, that one is actually
the now quarter of statewide significance.
because of the way that they set it up because of 95, because it's a split off from 95. So that's like Route 1 and 301 and 95 are all.
It's not in any of the books.
Yeah, because I asked Stephen about that, and Route 301 is considered a corridor statewide significance.
What is supposed to
Well, it's like 360 is not considered a corridor statewide significance, but that
That
goes
is state.
up.
That's
It's a wide road, but it's not considered that.
got a better case.
But at least
I have
not.
one accident out here, and I'll tell you where all the cars are.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
for the record, FAMPO's tech working document. Classified in future as a corridor statewide. The downside is no one's managed to achieve this corridor. If we succeed, it's another big win.
Well, I think if you push that parallel to Route 17, that should help your stance.
Yeah, that's part of the memo.
How many gas and flags,
Absolutely
25,000
disgusting road.
in case that
Yeah.
like 35.
Got like
All right.
50 so far.
Like the first 100, maybe 101.
All right. Any more discussion on smart scale before we move on to the next two items, since they are mostly interrelated? All right, item E, bike ped. Oh, just briefly before we even go on this, I guess Carrie will make an update to the BPAC at the January meeting on smart scale. Perfect. All right, awesome. So yeah, moving on to item E, bike ped count program update.
Yes, thank you. Here is the updated bicycle and pedestrian. From August 30th to October 24th, there was just about 6,000 total pedestrians and cyclists on Chatham Bridge. This is the counter, if you can tell. It's a little dark, but just in case, because there wasn't a great picture of it last meeting, so I just wanted y'all to see that. And then the peak count this is 378 on Sunday, October 8th, with a daily average of 235, and the cumulative data is about 25,000. Saw it in July. Here's the cumulative data is again, and if you remember at our last meeting, we noted this July 4th run event, which is why it has over 1,000. It looks so different from all of these other typical days. And here's the daily average from August 30th to October 24th, with obviously Saturday and Sunday being the highest days. And then our temporary location that we put in Spotsylvania, this was the location. You can see the counter. And unfortunately, there were some technical difficulties with the video data collection site. So I don't have the data to show you this time, but hopefully in January we will have that. And then that counter has been moved to Lafayette and Route 3. I'm sure you all know this intersection very well. So it's the BPAC trail right here.
Cars like to stop, not supposed to.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
You're trying to get past that on a bike and the guy's giving you the stink eye and it's like, you remind me.
Right. Yeah, cars never stop right where they need to be, right here.
I'm a bit of a dummy. I don't go out when you place these counters and I don't get the briefing from the how it works. Look at that picture. As a dummy who doesn't do this, it doesn't look to me like it's facing the VCR trail.
Yeah, so the sensors are right here. You
They're
can
on
see
the
my
side.
mouse. There are two little sensors right here, and you have to have
So it's facing
this.
sideways, it's not facing the traffic.
Right, yeah, so the sensors are right here on the side of the counter,
Good to
and see if they're on this,
know.
right on the side.
Good.
So it has to be facing a certain way for it to actually count you. Otherwise, it'll count all the cars.
Any further questions before?
Hey, Colin,
One more.
the counts on the bridge, is there any indication of, how many of those counts are walkers, bicyclists that are walking across and coming back, as opposed to walking across if they're going somewhere across the bridge?
Right, we talked about that at the September meeting, but we would need a strip down here to be able to count to distinguish between bicyclists and pedestrians. But there is a way to view the end going towards Fredericksburg or going towards Stafford, which I showed in the September presentation. So you could go back and look at that presentation.
Well, yeah, what I was asking was, is there a way to differentiate between people that are just sort of walking out on the bridge just because they want to walk out on the bridge and turn around and come right back, which is more touring the bridge as opposed to going somewhere? If you understand.
No, there's no way, like a sensor just counts the body heat, it doesn't count how long that body heat has been going a certain way or not.
And to clarify, this is at the very end of the bridge,
Yeah.
on the Stafford County.
Yeah.
So if you're walking this far out, at least I'm not going to walk all the way to this end. I'm going to stop in the middle, go to the observation, and turn around. Most people walking this far out, I would think, are going all the way down to the Belmont Ferry Farm Trail.
Yeah, so if you're coming
Hope, at least.
over here, you're gonna just stop right here in the middle.
We're not doing it out back.
All right, we can move on to the next presentation. Streetlight data analysis on the counts on Chatham Bridge.
So my name's Connor. It's my first time being at the BPAC, so it's nice to see you all. One question was raised in regards to when cyclists use the Belmont Ferry Farm Trail and get onto the Chatham Bridge going towards Fredericksburg, how many of them are using the path versus just getting on the road? So we try to answer that. One of the issues with it is, how accurate are you going to get with GPS data? And frankly, between a sidewalk and the other side of the road, it kind of just registers as the person's on the bridge. But we did some counts, and I'll be showing that to you guys right now. So when I ran it on the software, we did bicycle as the mode of travel. The data period is the latest available for what Streetlight has, which I was unhappy about because it's winter and spring. So you're going to see it was from the 1st of November to the last day of April. So as far as I'm concerned, that's probably at least half of what you're going to get in the other half of the year.
Yeah.
Because not everybody has those cozy mitts that you put on the bicycle thing, right? It's like oversized mitten that you put on the hand. So you have 3 day types. You're gonna have all days, weekends, and weekday. And then the software splits it up into all day, early AM, peak AM, midday, peak PM, and late PM. And then the output you get is called streetlight bicycle volume. It's gonna be like an estimate of all the GPS counts that they get going through that. And so this is how it's split up with the output. So for the average of every day for like the whole week, their estimate was 16 bike trips going that direction. So this is Stafford towards Fredericksburg. The weekday estimate, which they call Monday through Thursday, they excluded Friday because I did the, they have a proposed set of like days and time parts you use. I think that it should have been included for Friday. They use the one that they use for cars. And so because Friday's a different day. Anyway, sorry, I'm getting the weeds. And then there's weekend day, where you see a really large uptick compared to the other days. You're gonna have 48 cyclists going from Stafford to Fredericksburg, both on Saturday and Sunday. You see, a couple people are using it in the peak AM. It's really an uptick in. It's probably because it's warmed up a bit and people have that free time. So I have a little blurb here where it says the numbers or the averages for each day type indicated and the day parts within the day types. You might look at these numbers and say they don't make sense, but generally what you're going to see is 16 times 7, you're going to have 112 cyclists going across the bridge during the week as an average, over an average for these months. And that'll add up where you have 48 and 48 for the weekend day and then 3 per day on the weekday. So that adds up to 112. They're not exact numbers, but an estimate that Streetlight calculates using their bicycle volume methodology. It's an estimate that's calculated through 2 steps. They have a vehicle penetration rate that's used near the target zone, which is the gate that I put on the bridge. And then the bicycle volume estimates increased by a constant factor to index more closely to bicycle counters. So they have a really complicated algorithm that gives you this estimate. Next slide, please. Yeah, so you're going to see this weekend uptick where you see most of your bicycle traffic. And then all days generally follows that. And weekday, you're really not seeing nearly as much volume as you are going to see on the weekend. And then we have the EcoVisio bike ped counter that Coley went over in the previous one. And then I just took the October daily averages. You see it generally follows. It would be nice if I had looked into the directionality, assuming you could assume all things are, it's probably not like that.
Yeah, it's not.
It's
It's more,
that way, right?
yeah.
I get the feeling that people walk over the bridge to use the trail and then come back. Right?
That's what I.
Because whenever I drive, it's not exactly pedestrian friendly to go from the path down Kings Highway or over to Chatham Heights. And there's not many points of interest.
Would be if we built the Chatham Heights.
Never mind.
So one of the suggestions I had, I guess I have a really interesting idea here, is generally the data that they offer lags a year. Current time period. So come summertime, they're probably going to have the data for the summer of this year, and you can go back and get more accurate numbers using a larger time period. The other issue that we ran across was the bridge was closed for construction. So the start point that we had was when they opened the bridge for everyone to use it. So you give it some time, you're going to get more accurate information. And yeah, I think it's interesting. The other thing is, if everybody is making that turn and going onto the roadway, that's a serious safety issue. You have 112 cyclists a week cutting across 4 lanes of traffic to go into Fredericksburg. Maybe, I don't know, maybe a solution is you put a gate there and they have something.
Yeah,
But
there's a crosswalk and a very wide paved shoulder.
Sure. I just know that sometimes when I bike, I'm a little gung ho, and I should. So that's, any questions?
I guess one comment, one thing that'd be interesting, is maybe, you know, once a year, some sort of eco counter and bike ped counter report update with streetlight data mixed in. I know, Carrie, we previously had an eco counter report done back in 2018, maybe? We had an eco counter report done in like 2018, maybe. Be interested to see that repeated with the new work that's being done as well as streetlight data. Yeah.
I think it has its place. There is difficulties because you're not 100% sure whether or not the streetlight is picking up if they're on the roadway or they're on sidewalk, because you just don't have that level of GPS accuracy. You know, there's a difference of 15 or 30 feet.
And is that data showing more people than the counter or less people than the?
No, the counter is showing more, but it's an amalgamation of cyclists and pedestrians, whereas the streetlight one, just cyclists. And the streetlight one is just one direction. All these numbers are for people both going towards Stafford and towards Fredericksburg.
One last thing is my suggestion to the committee. We're busy with the Safe Streets for All program, which is the ideal place to get funded for bike and pedestrian infrastructure if it is related to safety need. Not get related to safety need. But all of your jurisdictions are part of this project, including King George. And we have now agreed a list of the roadways that are top 5 needs in each locality. So 5 times 5 localities, we've got 25 roadways where we think there's safety needs. Cars hitting people that are walking, or biking, or car crashes, or whatever else. Talk to your locality representatives on that thing, because whatever we put in that, we can use to apply for federal funding for those projects. And the federal funding pays for 80% of the cost. Locality still has to fund 20%. 80% of the project can be funded by the federal government within the next 3 years. We've got 3 years after the study is finished to apply for the project funding to construct these things. Quick turnaround time. You get access to that money real quick. So use this. I'm encouraging the localities to use this for bike and ped projects, because we're going to struggle to get money for bike ped projects at small scale. Secondly, the things you're allowed to apply for in that Safe Streets for All program is bike counters that the federal government will fund for you. Again, it's an 80-20 match. But you can apply for a bike counter in every jurisdiction. So I'm encouraging each jurisdiction to just add that on. Your 5 roadways, pick your projects for that 5 roadways and just add on a bike counter, because basically none of our jurisdictions really have bike counters, right? One on loan from VDOT and one that we have been getting repaired because it's really old and we're struggling with it and so on. We've got a limited bike count region. So every locality says on these 5 roads, here are the 5 things we want to fix and get funded, plus we want to add a bike counter. We then have 5 bike counters in the jurisdictions, plus one on loan from VDOT, plus the better one, which was renovating and sticking together with tape and keeping going. That'll give us 7 bike counters. Then you can really data across the entire region with all 7 employees. I'm just encouraging you to think about these things, and you know, you have to try and match things up. You're going to try and match, including this committee, with the Safe Streets for All program that colleagues of yours might be doing or friends of yours might be doing on that committee.
So
Just try to keep all these things.
quick clarification as well, Ian. So the 5 projects that the consultant brought forth for Stafford County and the 2 that we changed, they were all on rural Stafford County roads,
5
and they would not be eligible to put a bike ped count.
places. Each place can have.
Correct. They're all rural roads. I don't think it's something we would probably look at for our applications because there's no people walking on any of those roads. And there's no multimodal options on any of those roads.
There are people walking on those roads and biking on those roads.
Counter and
But the point
data
I'm
would not be
making
the
is
same.
that you can change that.
Yeah, it wouldn't be.
Is
You
the
can
roadway
change
and
all
the
of
path,
that.
and the bike counters data is just the path.
That use,
And
or
they.
you can change that one road. by putting a sign
Such hard date.
that's a safety feature.
Yeah, because that's average. When you were trying to explain to Ian, it's apples and oranges. They wouldn't be the same.
Yeah.
I don't know if you understood that.
He's trying to use this a little bit because it's a shot to get 80% of the money.
I didn't hear you. That's it. It's different. It's just the same thing, so it wouldn't.
And one of the challenges that we out in the rural areas have is that our roads are so dangerous that bicyclists
The person who wanted this
because they'll be killed.
is not even here.
Otherwise,
Was Aaron Frank who wanted?
great places for people to
Oh,
ride bikes, ride to work, ride to shopping.
That's before this?
Find them everywhere you
Yeah,
want.
because he was here earlier.
I realize that's.
We saw that. Did he?
Not sure.
That's your actual jurisdiction.
I didn't see him
King George.
here. Okay.
Change
Did Did.
So that's a.
I saw it.
That's a high percentage rate.
Oh, oh.
He just left.
But it's
Jerry.
sidewalk,
Gary, for Connor,
sidewalk.
first, this was like from 2021 and 2022. I'd like to see a newer set of data because now that cyclists are more used to Chatham, like when it first opened, I didn't ride across it. Just because it wasn't habit, you know what I mean? Now that it's there, I think those numbers are low. Yeah, I mean, when I do ride on the road, when it's wet, there's a lot more. Plus, I'd like to see a spring and summer data for our purposes instead of a fall, winter. Because a lot of people, fair weather riders.
All right. Just a little bit of order back to the meeting.
The purpose is to help us boost the numbers if we are looking at funding as recent as possible.
Is there any further questions?
I guess, one question. Connor, your data that you were sharing is previous data. So it's
Yeah.
being grabbed at a different time. Holy's data is current. It's right now.
That too.
Yeah.
All of these. So that is why there is a difference,
There
I
is-
think, in,
And there are also different things.
Method is different.
Yeah.
Yeah, explain what we were just talking about.
Yeah, so the bike, so the counter is just gonna be the sidewalk on the bridge, and that's including both bikes and pedestrians. This thing, you put like a gate, it's basically a square saying, I want you to analyze this. Over this part of the bridge, right? And I say, I only want traffic coming this way, and I just want bikes. Streetlight can't really differentiate whether or not they're using the sidewalk. Right. So it is kind of comparing apples to oranges. They can go like a little bit in tandem, you can make use of it, but comparing them as the same number is wrong.
Comment on that earlier slide, and this is real quick, if you could go back one. Yeah, okay, we're right there, right there. The weekday line says, on Thursday, the weekend says Saturday to Sunday. What happened to Friday?
Yeah, so that was one of the things that was kind of an oversight. One of the, when you select the automatic day packs on the software, they have you select all day. Weekday, they call it Monday through Thursday, and weekend day, they use Saturday and Sunday. They tend to exclude Friday. When I do it again, I can include Friday.
Okay.
Why they do that is a lot of the times software is used for reading patterns and traffic patterns with vehicles.
And you
And
want
a big
flex on
study
Fridays.
is that Fridays a bogey day.
telework.
completely different,
Yeah.
like Monday, Wednesday.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think you probably see a higher number of cyclists on Friday, but lower than Saturday and Sunday. That's my guess.
Mhm.
All right, any further questions before we move on to the next item? All right, awesome. The 2023-2024 calendar.
Great.
Well done, Cody and Connor.
So the 2024 FAMPO meetings calendar, the green is a bike ped. So it's every other month like is now on Thursdays. So if y'all see anything you need to speak up now, or this is your schedule for next year.
You know, unless we go, oh, hey, I have to do a thing, let's change it.
Like not allowed.
Just kidding.
But what you do want to check, so
Oh.
just go over these dates, and if you see a potential piece of thing, you maybe notify your other chairman, and agree to say, hey, September,
Yes.
this is your first days. If somebody sees a problem with it, just
And Carrie, I take away my earlier comments. That is, March is UMW spring break, so I will be able to make the meeting.
So you'll be okay with that one? Okay.
Yep, okay.
Is this on the website?
It will be.
Once it's,
All right, so it'll be approved by the policy committee in the November meeting?
Yes.
Awesome. All right,
But nobody sees anything right now. That's a problem.
now, carry it out with this whole, but I see the problem.
so thank you. We'll move on to correspondence.
So I saw this. I decided it was correspondence. Do you want to say anything about it?
We had, Adele from the Freelance Star come and talk to us about the new trail. We've got 0.97 miles of new trail at Mott's. It's on the other side of the silo. It, is where the reports that we're getting, it's one of the prettiest trails at Mott's. It does carry, quite a bit of the perimeter, and that is our ultimate goal, is to get you guys more perimeter trails. So you're right there up against the water. So there's lots of waterfront views that is so expensive that we've done. And this is my board, and yeah, that's it. Thank you, Carrie. That was very sweet of you.
Nice to have a little good news.
Thank you. All right, moving on.
Bench down there as well that we put down, and it is bolted, so we're hoping that nobody gets into any shenanigans and decides that they want to put the bench in the water. It is bolted to the ground, and it's made of cedar. You can smell it before you even get to it. It's lovely, and just a little point of reflection, and the trails from there and the reservoir. It really is pretty, and now is the time of year with the leaves, the foliage. It's absolutely beautiful. It's a little slippery. Watch the leaves.
Is it like the bench on the core trail system at a fire pit?
It does. Oh no, those are
That's okay.
by fallen trees.
That's what I thought.
Our sawyers go out, and no, this one was created by a yeah, that's it. That's
Okay,
it.
perfect.
It is a volunteer, has helped with the organization. He's a hiker, and he's a side, and he helped us out with this. And then on the other side is the plaque for the gentleman. It was in it was a community member's brother who gave us the ability to put this trail in for you guys. So as we always say, we're 100% volunteer based. We don't receive any money except from the community, from individuals like you guys and small businesses. And that's how we were able to pay for the trail boss to come out and machine the trail that we went out and did the finish work. There's a lot of snipping and raking.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Anything further on correspondence? All right, we'll move on to staff reports.
And the staff reports. Ian, do you have any staff reports?
On the list of that agenda, but
Oh,
I was in the Freeling Finds. There was an article about the bike bus in Fredericksburg, and so I've been in contact with the person who wrote that. So that's exciting. Yay, kids riding a bike bus.
I would say there's just two things I leave from digital. I've been back to South Africa since I've been in the States, so it's 5 years since I was last back home, so I'm going to be away for that period. But FAMPO has no committees, but just you email me on the 2nd of December and wonder why I'm just not coming back to you. I'm on leave for the first time. And secondly, today is exactly my 3-year anniversary of starting at FAMPO. Tomorrow morning we'll be starting my 4th year at FAMPO.
What's that? Should have got,
And then,
should have stopped his office with balloons or something.
Well,
there was one other thing. Oh yes, don't forget, it's election day on Tuesday. If you haven't already voted, some of us can't vote, so please do that.
all right, thank you.
Anything, Connor, to report?
And Connor, that was your first presentation to a committee? Second. You've done a few stuff. Oh, for policy. Okay. Very nice. First to BPAC.
We're the best committee.
All right, member reports. First, I'll say welcome to a new member of the committee.
Hello. Kim Mitchell, I'm standing in for Lee Anderson. I'll be her alternate going forward. Nice to meet you all.
Thank you.
And we can just go around the table from there.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. Okay. I've got some items. Yesterday evening, I was in the virtual meeting of the Virginia Statewide Trails Town Hall. Very interesting. I thought it was good. It went quick, actually. The Trails Office is working toward having a statewide trails plan ready by next spring or summer. They had a lot of key elements that they're working toward. One is they really want trails to have a lot of connectivity with each other. Okay, in other words, no no standalone trails, if you will. A couple of the questions that they asked those of us who were on the call, on the meeting, they had a couple of open-ended questions where we had on our screen, we were able to enter text comments. There was a lot of, awful lot of comments. It was actually kind of impressive. I'm assuming they're going to have a report that's coming out that will take the three town halls, which one's going tonight, last night, and then Wednesday night also. They will capture all of the input into a report. They had 3 or 4 questions for everybody to participate and answer that were all sort of not very helpful questions. It was along the lines of everybody who loves trails say yes. If you're not loving trails, say no. Of course, every one of those questions, 100% yeses. So yeah, if you don't like trails, why you're here? We had some good representation from the Potomac Heritage Trail Association, of which I'm one. president of our board was also on the call last night. Linda, were you on the call? Linda was,
Yeah,
you're not Linda.
Yeah, no.
Sorry.
But it's okay. But she was on the call and then I was also on the call, but she was basically the Fredericksburg person for answering any question.
Yeah, great. Yeah, she was on there also. Okay, very good. Yeah, it was hugely interesting, I thought. In the realm of the Dog and Railroad Trail, we have recently completed an improvement project on our Common Road trailhead parking area, with funding from the community foundation, which we really appreciate, because that's a parking area that really needed some help. So we got that, and it's really looks great, and all our trail users love it. So it's really good. We've recently submitted documents to the Department of Conservation and Recreation, referencing the suitability study for the Dog and Railroad Trail that was completed about a year ago. They had proposed an acquisition cost of $23.2 million. We believe that's wildly excessive, so we have proposed back to them an estimate for acquiring the trail of $3.1 million. We'll see how that goes. There was also in the suitability study, one of our trail neighbors had a position paper about the trail. We've long had the idea that we really should have make some comments about that. So we've also submitted those comments. And we've also, the number 3 item that we've done this week, we've asked that the acquisition of the trail be included in the governor's budget. So we see how that goes. So that's the end of my report.
Awesome, thank you.
Dealing with Red Trails.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. We are finally getting to the, we've got a couple piles of gravel that we've been sitting on for a while that we just haven't been able to get a weekend in to do a trail maintenance day, because we've been doing lots of other things. We're collaborating with Mary Washington University, and I have an at-large member who is a student, and he is kind of spearheading it. We're going to get the gravel dispersed into all of those big holes on Canal and Scout at the beginning on the other side of VOC. That'll be November 4th. If nobody's doing anything November 4th between 9 and noon and you want some hours, or if you have a junior or senior in high school looking for volunteer hours, we can write that off for them and get them down there from 9 to noon. We'll be picking up gravel and filling in holes. The other thing that we're doing is we met with Mike Ward Monday, and we are heavily brainstorming, but it's in its very early stages. We want to do a skills area at Mott's with some wooden features that would be kind of like skinnies or a teeter-totter or something that you would drop off of. Nothing massive, something that would be as safe as possible, but it would be in the, on the front side of Mott's where you would come in going towards the silo, and that big section that's kind of between the existing trail and River Road. It's a nice flat area already. It'll be a great opportunity that we could have maybe some Eagle Scouts or some doing some features for us. So we're looking forward to get some more community involvement with that. But that is in the brainstorm phase, and we'll work closely with the city to make sure everything is okay with them. As we put it in, I'll give you guys some updates where we are with it, but we've got a lot of brainstorming to do. We've got to like logistically plot it out. So that's our next trail at Mott's.
Awesome.
Skill area.
Thank you.
I am Cassie Lord with VDOT. I'm in the planning group. So right now, basically going headlong into smart scale and trying to figure out how the potential changes could impact projects that everyone can apply for. For Fredericksburg area, it's December 1st that we would like you guys to have your pre-scope modules in for projects. I know that's right before we vote on it, and if things change, if there's some kind of impact, we can always discuss projects after they've been made if we think do better. And it's not like we're going to immediately start working on the projects when you submit them. And no, but yes, but no, we're not going to change the date.
Ian gave me a look, so I just have to clarify. You're going to be able to provide support for 3 applications.
Yes, so it's 1 brand new application and 2 old applications.
And you want
for study
us to let you know what those are December.
by December 1st.
Ian,
By December 1st.
to let them know what
Maybe mention,
to let them know what the 3 projects.
long list of projects.
The use of the localities at the localities.
Yes.
Okay, so 1 new one and 2 previously submitted, or
No, this can be any projects that were looked at for the studies, any
Like the
VDOT
pipeline
studies,
studies.
yeah, or even studies that like the county has done and everything that has a schematic and cost estimate attached with it.
Actually, majority of the projects already have studies.
Yeah. So, stuff like that, so that we can have something that we don't have to basically start from scratch.
yeah, but they're only gonna provide support to 3.
And we need to tell them what those 3 we want support on by December 1st.
That's
Yes, and then if for some reason something goes haywire the following week for CCD, then we can always discuss potentially different projects that you might, so just have them on the back burner is what I'm saying.
This is not anxiety inducing.
No, I mean, you can put them on the portal and then just tell me the 3 that you want me to look at.
See, more.
No,
So
before
would
this.
you agree that more in the portal is better than?
Yes, and you can put 10.
But we have to let them know which 3 we
Okay.
want VDOT support for.
We're not gonna belabor this point right now because everybody would like to leave. But more is better than zero.
We'll talk more on Monday. Jacob?
Oh, strike that from the record, please.
I don't think you're gonna strike.
It's good, because I remember.
All right, Jacob?
Yeah, I just have a few things. Jacob Paswick, Spotsylvania County Planning. Firstly, our small area plan survey website is still up. We're gonna have that up for another 2 months. Feel free to access that. That's available through our county news, like on the main webpage for spotsylvania.va.us. You can find it through our planning department website. The focus area are our VRE Crossroads Station area, the Bowman Center, the old cellophane plant area there, the Thornburg Jackson Gateway area, 4 Mile Fork, Route 208, Route 1, Lafayette Boulevard, as well as Lake Anna down near Route 208, right on Lake Anna. So that's still out there for another 2 months. We've been collecting pretty good feedback thus far. We just pulled the initial numbers on that. There are 3 items I'm just going to throw out really questions. Please don't respond to them now. Just get back to me, or maybe we can answer it at next meeting. But firstly, the the Fredericksburg City Land connection to Mott's Reservoir, has there been any re-engagement by the city of Fredericksburg? And because ultimately, after the feedback that we all had, the advice that basically came out of that process was if the city could get back on board here and just secure the easement, we can make all of these issues go away, basically.
With the red shed, no, the thing that I'm hearing back and forth, they're playing tennis with the River Road needs to be in first,
Okay.
and they're throwing that onto VDOT.
Okay.
So I haven't done much more about that because that just all sounded above my pay grade.
Okay,
Let's make this move.
Okay.
Yeah, so we can't do anything trail-wise until they solidify they are absolutely going to move the pedestrian crossing.
who's working with that? Is the city working with VDOT on that, or how's that?
Honestly, I'm not sure.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
Well, it's still tracking, so if you hear anything, let me know.
Between the Parks and Rec with the city and then the lady, I can't remember her name, that we were talking about.
Wanda Parrish? Okay, all right,
They're supposed to work together,
okay.
but they're all saying it's VDOT's problem, and then I
Okay.
don't know anything about.
I'll check in and see what's going on. I appreciate it. It's on the
Yeah.
radar. The next one, I just had a question on the VCR crossing study. I think I had emailed you. But was the resolution between the VCR crossing on Route 1 and the little connect back to the Kings Mill down to Harrison Route 1 shared use path?
That's right. Nothing has gone any farther with that, but I
Okay.
know that it's something that is like on their mind.
Okay,
to be dealt with.
okay, good. All right, excellent with that. Are you all involved with the TAP applications, right? So did you, not directly, okay.
Because we don't apply.
Okay.
We just cheerlead them and make sure.
Okay, all right, I'll scap that. Then the only other things yeah.
But yeah,
Well, I just wanted to see, so I was able to solicit from the Cortland Park HOA, which is right at the end of, they have a shared use path that was constructed as a proffer. They have an interest in the connection going over to Spotsylvania Parkway, and we were able to actually secure a letter of support from their HOA for that particular Smith Station tap project. I had provided to Paul, I understood at the initial phase that letter wasn't important, but at some certain point, certain level, that letter should come forth. And I don't know where that has it been conveyed? I just don't want all that effort to just like,
Yeah,
they put the letter together. I want it to be,
okay. I'll double check,
Oh.
because I'm actually tomorrow, I'm verifying
okay.
all the TAP applications.
I have it and Paul has it. There's a support letter from the community. I know that's important.
so you have it.
Okay, all right. And then lastly, I just want to give an update, some progress, private development progress here. And it's a compliment to the East-West study efforts as well. I've brought up in the past that we had this issue with Route 17 and this limited access designation. Well, the East-West study that we were all involved with, we're looking at the shared use path connection between Germanna Community College area and the VRE. And this limited access thing kept coming up. Seems to have resolved itself. So we recently had an approval for a office park / data center / industrial park called Hunter's Ridge, which has fairly tremendous frontage along Overview Drive, which is one of the roads just south of 17, all within that giant right of way. And they are going to construct a fairly significant chunk of shared use path down 17 from Cosner Drive, headed in an eastward direction. And they've also proffered to engineer for construction engineering from Cosner Drive all the way to Hospital Boulevard. And that sends it back west towards where the I-95 project's going on. So there's a lot going on with that. That's pretty positive. That's been approved. You've probably heard AWS had 4 applications within Spotsylvania County for data centers. One of them, the Cosner Tech Campus, is going to include significant shared use path construction along Massaponax Church Road, as well as their northern edge of their property where they're doing a 4-lane right of way for future Hospital Boulevard extension. Hospital Boulevard is extending down Right now, it's building. There's still a gap, but they're gonna actually they're gonna construct 2 of those lanes plus the shared use path as part of their frontage. So that's good news with that one. I'd also say we have 2 upcoming rezonings here within the next couple of months. Village at Crossroads down at the VRE station, Crossroads Parkway. They have significant shared use paths to be constructed as part of the East Coast Greenway Auxiliary Trail, consistent with our plans, along Crossroads Parkway frontage, and then over to Thornton Rolling Road. So all of that is part of that project if it's approved.
Have they made significant changes to their proposal? The board was not,
Correct. They made more favorable in terms of adding more commercial. I don't know how it's going to play out, but we'll see. And the last one I'll bring up is Thornburg Industrial. It's another industrial park, this time on South Roxbury Mill Road, where they have a shared use path along their frontage. And how does that all work? Spotsy Tech Campus was built along Route 1, and North Roxbury, they're doing shared use path. We have this section on South Roxbury. Mud Tavern Road is being widened with a shared use path. Kalahari is doing a shared use path. And we're starting to get a network of pieces, and it's rapidly coming together. So that's all I have. Thank you. You'll see a lot of shared use paths come on. Pieces.
I am becoming very concerned about the I'm becoming concerned because year of trying to get the project out of a hole. And VDOT has been working on it, the city's been working on it, and the city didn't build it when they were supposed to, and so the cost went up and.
$1 million now.
We put more money on it, and then the cost went up again, and we put more money on it, and we're getting higher FAMPO funding than damn. Well, there, VDOT has to get environmental, city has to access road, because they've got it's got to be built through this land, and the city has to approve that. All these technical little things, right?
Private land.
And yeah, so there's all these little technical things before you can physically go drive out there and start working. And I'm worried that if the bridge isn't ordered.
Yeah, exactly.
If the bridge isn't ordered, it's been like a year, bridge isn't ordered soon. The doctor and the city are gonna come back and go, there's not enough money, and then we're gonna go and find another 100,000 or 300,000 or 500,000. I'm really
Ian,
just saying, please help me put pressure on the people who need to do the little things. Some of them are in the city of Fredericksburg that need to get this roadway approval thing.
So,
Some of them
Ian,
are VDOT.
let's bring this up at TAC on Monday. Cassie, maybe you could talk with X, Y, and Z, and Jamie can answer some questions, and we can see what we need to.
Yeah, this is a tax.
Yeah.
I've asked a number of times and I get partial information always.
And Jamie's on the call, so I'll circle up at TAC on Monday. I'm happy to check in on that.
All right. Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you, James.
I didn't hear with it.
That's it, Monday.
Monday.
Yeah. Jackie said it.
All right.
I mean, Jamie.
So-
Forgive me, Jamie, I put Jamie's accent together.
All right. Sorry, Chris. Go ahead.
That's all right. So as we talked last meeting about e-bikes, I did touch base with many localities, had a nice conversation with Mike Ward from the city. He is gung ho with the committee that you all have. I guess you mentioned you were not at the meeting that they had right before that last one.
No,
Good.
I've talked to Mike and I've talked to Officer Joe and I've got some anecdotal records for you guys, but, or that was a bigger undertaking, but there's just a lot of moving pieces. And it's, the way Mike put it is, I'm so sorry, Chris, but it depends on who you're talking to and, doing calibrations with what other municipalities are doing. And it really depends on, it varies greatly from municipality to municipality over what they're deciding to do. So, sorry, Chris. But
That's all right. No, it was good. Mike and I talk all the time, but we're sitting around and I was getting all e-bike information from him. My apologies on behalf of King George County that we did not have someone at Safe Streets for All. I believe we have that worked out. Mr. Minor should be here next time.
Okay.
If for some reason he is not as boss, but No,
All right.
push the right button somewhere else.
You're always the guy I talk to. Anything.
Yeah, that was the week that taps due, and I got like 5 different emails, one from Connor and two from Carrie, and you sent me one too, and I'm like, smart scale on this, and I'm just forwarding them all down to the River Cone building going, somebody help me, because this is not my cup of tea.
Yeah, I mean, so for smart scale.
Yeah, so hopefully they got that all figured out. The only other thing it's not really bike fed, but it is the CTB got the presentation on making 206 no through trucks.
Yep.
Everything sounds like they are going to approve it based on the recommendation they got from the VDOT rep. They presented it as that the option would be that the trucks would go to 3 and 301. They totally forgot that there is a road called 205, which would save the truck 38 seconds or something. So they're probably going to do that, but either way, 205, 43, and 301, that's the 86 trucks that will not be on 206 a day, will go down through
Right.
yes, through the center of the King George Courthouse Bike and Pedestrian Plan that my friend Carrie Eves did a very great job working on last year. And so, yes, yeah, we're going to come back with a whole bunch of different recommendations and getting down to kill the speed, and maybe that Route 3 bypass that's like a dream, maybe to become reality much sooner than later. And that's it.
All right, well, thank you. Stafford County, working on our transportation master plan, have presented to our board at a work session last week, about 2 hours, a roadway plan that we're looking to move forward with for smart scale, and then we're still looking to present multimodal stuff in the coming months into next year. Other than that, I have no further updates. And I will, unless there's anything else, I'll call this meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Jacob, thing with Route 3 and connecting
Drive all the way
when
out
the
to
city